The explosion of the Deepwater Horizon platform resulted in the release of an estimated 205 million gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico in a 3-month span. The impacts of any oil spill can be devastating, affecting the ecosystem and any associated person or business. While human intervention is necessary and most methods of cleanup are environmentally friendly, the use of chemical dispersants is one such method that is controversial. With almost 2 million gallons of oil dispersant used in the Gulf since the Deepwater Horizon accident, dispersant use is an important topic for anybody to be familiar with. By the end of this movie, you should understand what dispersants are, how they work, and that dispersants are potentially harmful to the environment. Simply put, dispersants accelerate natural oil degradation by breaking down oil into small droplets which spread out over a larger area. These processes include the combined interaction of weathering, evaporation, oxidation, sedimentation, and ends when oil is converted into non-toxic compounds by biodegradation. These processes degrade the estimated 168 million gallons of oil that is naturally released into the marine environment every year off of U.S. shores. Weathering involves the combined action of currents, temperature, waves, wind, and other environmental aspects that will break down oil physically and chemically to form droplets. Evaporation occurs when the liquid component of oil is evaporated into the air. And oxidation is the chemical transformation of oil components, which allows oil to combine with water molecules, ultimately resulting in oil breakdown. Sedimentation is the process by which oil combines with suspended material and is then deposited on the seafloor. Filter feeders such as the baleen whale, scallops, clams, and mussels also filter out oil, which is then deposited on the seafloor. Simultaneously with these other processes, biodegradation occurs, which involves microorganisms that break down oil. The oil is broken down into non-toxic compounds, and it is important to remember that each of these processes is aided by every other process. Again, chemical dispersants accelerate oil degradation by working in unison with natural processes to ultimately degrade oil into these non-toxic compounds. Dispersants may sound like a good idea, but are dispersants actually effective when it comes to oil degradation and dispersion? The answer is yes, as it was found by researchers from the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at the University of Cincinnati. An Environmental Protection Agency approved baffled blast test was used to test the effectiveness of dispersants. The relationship of dispersants with different environmental conditions could also be determined due to the ability to isolate specific tests in flasks. These conditions include temperature, oil type, and water conditions. Water conditions being the mixing energy of currents, waves, and wind, which were stimulated by swirling and shaking the flask at different speeds. Dispersant effectiveness could be tested for by comparing results to a reference test, or control test, that did not contain any chemical dispersant. Multiple flasks for each test were used, and then replicated multiple times to ensure that data was randomized and any findings could be determined as statistically significant. After extensive testing, dispersants were effective in breaking up oil slicks and forming small oil droplets. It was also experimentally proven that dispersant effectiveness significantly enhanced when combined with other external factors. The combination of vigorous water conditions and an increase in temperature led to these further increases in oil degradation rates. Although dispersants are effective in oil degradation, the environmental effects have been highly debated. First off, it has been stated by many that dispersants are non-toxic to most species, and that dispersing the oil will have a more positive effect on ecosystems. Some believe dispersants cover up the obvious effects of a spill by reducing the amount of oil that gets to the shore, but leads to further problems of the ecosystems out at sea that encounter the dispersed oil.
After the oil spill, recovery crews spent months cleaning up the Gulf Coast.
To tell the public that they're safe from the oil, but we're not entirely out of the woods yet.
Is concerned about how poisonous dispersants can be and how the way they break up oil into tiny droplets could affect marine life.
While experts are happy with the progress, there's more studies to be done.
More research is needed on the effects of dispersants, as there have been no long-term studies on the effects on ecosystems.
We annihilated a bunch of life in the Gulf of Mexico and traded that for perhaps cleaner beaches. Dispersants are great if you're a bird and bad if you're a fish. Long-term impacts to the Gulf of Mexico.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows that.